Right, so I'm going to assume that you've managed to get logged in, and what I'm going to do is just show you how to make a fairly simple game in GameMaker Studio. So if you're struggling with the bigger tutorial, which is quite difficult because it's got a lot of steps, this one might be a place to start and then have a go at that other tutorial once you've got the hang of the basics. So we're going to make a new game here, and we're going to choose drag and drop. We're going to give our game a name. So I'm going to call it simple top down game, like that. And obviously you want to save that into a folder where you will be able to find it later. Click save, and then it opens up like this. So there's nothing there at the moment. The first thing that we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to add a room, and we're going to start putting walls on that room. So we've already got a room here, room 0. You can rename that if you want. If you want to edit it, you double click. Now at the minute, it's a big room. You can change the size of it by changing the properties at the bottom left. So I'm going to make my room 800 by 600. You don't have to do the same. It's just what I'm going to do here. See, we've now got a smaller room. I don't want a black background. I want it to look like it's grass or something like that. So I'm actually going to change the background by going to background. And I can change the colour here. You can select background images as well. I'm just going to change the colour for now. And I'll do like a darker green here. That might do it. Click OK. I don't like that green much, so make it a bit darker again. Maybe move it across a touch. That's a little bit better for what I'm going for. Right, so we've got a room there. So far, I've gone into GameMaker, drag and drop. I've double clicked on the room. I've changed the size, and I've changed the colour of the background. I'm now going to add something to the room. So we're going to add what's called a sprite. This is just an image that you put into GameMaker. Now you can use images that you've got in your user area or that you find online, or you can just make a new image when you're in GameMaker, which is what we're going to do. So I'm going to right click, create sprite. Now this is where you can draw your own sprite. So I'm going to double click here on the sprite itself, and it takes me into a little editing window where I can change what that sprite looks like. I'm going to make this like a grey wall, so I'm going to choose a grey. These are just simple drawing tools, which I'm sure you'll work out. I'm going to fill that in. That's maybe not quite dark enough, so let's make it a darker grey there. And then I also just want to give it a border. You don't have to, it's just what I'm going to do. So I've clicked on the pencil tool. I'm going to make the brush a bit bigger, get a slightly darker grey. And I'm just going to put some edges on there. If you're accurate with drawing, great, do that. If you're like me and you can't draw in a straight line, you can get the line tool. And then you could just do this with lines, like this. So I'm just going to put a border on the edges, really just to make this stand out a little bit more. That's all I'm doing. You might want to make yours a bit more than that. You might want to stick some like dots in the middle or something like that. I'll just put a few in here like that, just in random places. And these are going to be my wall blocks, okay? Right, now I'm finished. I can close that down there. And what I want to do is name that sprite. So I'm going to call it wall. I realise one of my dots is over the border, but never mind. So I'll call that wall there. You actually always start off sprite names with SPR. You don't have to. Just makes it easier to realise the sprites later. So now I've done that, I'm going to close that sprite down. Okay. So I've got a room, I've set the size, I've changed the colour of the background. I've now made a sprite, but I can't put that sprite onto that room yet because sprites are just pictures. We need to turn it into an object. So what I'm going to do now, and remember you can pause this video at any time you want to go and have a go. I'm going to right click on objects here and create an object. I'm going to use the sprite that I've just made, SPR wall. So I just clicked on this little bit here to choose a sprite. And of course I'm going to give that a name, OBJ wall. So it's an object, so we call it OBJ and wall. And that's just to help us remember that it's an object later. We're going to make it solid because we don't want the player to go through it later. And then that's that object done. Now we've got that object, we can go to our room and we can start putting that object on. Now, if you get a little red cross like this and it doesn't let you put it on, it's because you're on your background layer and you need to be on the next one, instances. So now I can drag that out. You can see the size I've made it. It takes up 4 of these little squares. I can put my wall around here. Take a little bit of time because you can't unfortunately just like drag a lot of them at once. But I can make a little bit of a maze here that the player's going to have to go through. Get the idea. I'll put a few more on just for when we come to put the player in. And make that do. There. Now, you don't have to just have one wall object. You can have different things there. You can make new sprites, turn them into objects and put anything you want on here. So you can make them look like different and have different types of walls or different types of bricks, whatever you want. I'll stop that video there and then I'll show you how to put a character in who can move around.